In 2004, there was this guy who wanted to kick up his Jewsic career, if you will, Jewish music. Thank you. Career, and he made a good decision because it went very well for him. His name is Dan Nichols, and for those who know Dan Nichols or have a connection to summer camp, or know someone who has a connection to summer camp, or knows someone who knows someone who has a connection to summer camp, you have a connection to Dan Nichols somehow. And so he wrote many a fabulous song that connects to liturgy beautifully and is fun and upbeat and has gone all over the world essentially to play his music. And one of his maybe most popular pieces is songs is called Kehilah Kedoshah. Which means a holy community, if you will. Kehilah is a community, Kedoshah, Kadosh, from holy. And so, you know, it starts with this nice, if you are Atem, then we're Nitzavim, we stand here today. And he connects it to this Torah portion called Nitzavim, essentially, because Nitzavim is about, it's sort of the end of the Torah, where we're standing together. But then he goes on to the chorus. Is very interesting because he jumps into Kehilah Kedoshah, and he keeps saying it over and over again, essentially, this holy community. It's a beautiful song if you've not heard it. Post Shabbat, clearly. Go navigate to the World Wide Web, if you've heard of it, and you will find it there. It is all over the place. It's this new thing, the World Wide Web. It's incredible. You should try it. Everything is on there. So, including this song, if you have not heard it before, it's really catchy. So, it talks about a holy community, and Kehilah Kedoshah is very much part of the terminology we use to describe Congregation Beth Israel. It's in our mission statement if you go to the website, and of course these last week particularly I've been thinking a lot about this holy congregation and about how holy everyone is here and how wonderful this place is. And so I just wanted to mention that in this idea, that because we're talking about this idea of what a Kehilah is and how the word Kehilah Kedoshah sort of matches together. So this week's Torah portion is called Vayakel. It is the penultimate Torah portion in the book of Exodus. Whenever I can say penultimate from the Bima, it makes me sound very smart, otherwise known as second to last. But it's connected, though, to the last Torah portion, so it's actually a double portion this week. So it's Vayakel and Pekudei. They're connected. And so we'll be hearing tomorrow from Maddie from Vayakel. But so I wanted to just mention a little about the first of the two of the sort of last Torah portions that fall in the book of Exodus for us. So Vayakel has the word, the root in Hebrew of Kehilah. And Kehilah means congregation. So Vayakel, Kehilah, can you hear that in there, the connection? Nodding, yes, good, you're with me. Hi, I'm up here, you see me. Good, okay. So there's this great root that connects to Vayakel. So it talks about the idea of congregating, because Moses is talking to the Israelites just really at the tail end of putting together the last pieces for the tabernacle. It's a lovely ending to the book of Exodus, particularly when we start Exodus, we're slaves in Egypt, and here we're sort of together in this idea of congregating. It's a lovely concept. So it's the last touches of a tabernacle. It's Moses is gathering the Israelites together. We have the second Torah portion, which connects to it, which talks about the sort of record keeping that the Israelites keep. And then also, by the way, there are a few Shabbatot throughout the year that have names, certain special names for Shabbat. This Shabbat, by the way, is called Shabbat HaChodesh. Why is it called Shabbat? Does anyone know what Chodesh means? Anyone? Month. Yes, month. Good. So this is Shabbat HaChodesh. This is the Shabbat of the month. Why is this Shabbat get to be called Shabbat of the month? Yeah? Anyone? Hello? Yes, Nisa. Thank you, Rabbi. So, yes. So, Ringer. So, yes. We are entering the month of Nisan this week. And then month of Nisan holds which holiday for us? Passover. Woo! So, this Shabbat leading into Pesach is called Shabbat HaChodesh. So all these things clicking together in this idea of community. It's a beautiful thing all coming together particularly to fall on this week's Torah portion, Vayakel. And so I want to, with a little help from my good friend, I wish he was my close friend, but a colleague of mine who I'm not in any league with, named Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, who is the former head rabbi of the UK, shares this great concept today. And he talks about community. And he says, actually, if you look at Jewish text, there are 3 terms for explaining community. And so there are 3 of them. One is an Edah. The second is a Tzibur. And the third is Kehilah. So we know Kehilah, we'll leave that one for last. Kehilah is a community, or Kehilah Kedoshah, Kehilah Kedoshah. Thank you for singing with me, everyone. So the first one is called an Edah. The word Edah has in it the word Ed. Ed, by the way, in Hebrew means witness. And so this is idea that one way to describe a community is through what we witness together, how we see things. And it's laser focused. It's really all about what we see. So that's one view of looking at a community. The next that he describes is called tzibur. And tzibur is more of a term that describes like a more public. It's the minimalist sense of what a community is. That is a tzibur. Actually, the person who leads a service is sometimes called the shiliach tzibur, the person who leads the service. It's sort of like the general person that connects everyone in the room. And then there's the kehilah. And the kehilah, like I mentioned, is this more connective community. So here's what Rabbi Sachs has to say, better than me or really anyone else on the earth, because it's Rabbi Sachs. He says this: Edah comes from the word ed, which I mentioned to you, which is the word witness. The people who constitute an Edah have a strong sense of collective identity. They have witnessed the same things. So we have a collective identity when we're an Edah. An Edah can be a gathering for good or for bad, and it is a group that has much in common. So that's, if you describe one of these 3 aspects of what a congregation can be, that's an Edah. Second one is called tzibur. So by contrast, the word tzibur, which by the way comes from the Mishnah, essentially, from the sort of the oral Torah, talks about, this is to understand the concept of tzibur, think of a group of people who are praying at the Western Wall. They're considered a community, but they don't really know each other. How many people have been to the Western Wall before? Western Wall? Good. Excellent. So, other than the group you were with, you were standing next to other people. And so, but those people, when you walked away from the Western Wall, you probably never saw them again, except for your group. And so Rabbi Sachs wants you to think of that community and that moment. That was a community. It was. Because you were together, you were praying together, you were all at the wall together, but then you walked away. There's no like long-lasting community aspect to that. It was a general space. But it was lovely because you were together, but then you disperse. So that's how he wants you to sort of think about it. They may not know each other, they may never see each other again, but for the moment, they happened to be people who were standing there. And so a tzibur is a community in the minimalist sense. It's this group of members who have really nothing in common except for they're together. So that's another way of looking at a community. The third way is kehilah. And a kehilah is different from the other 2 words. Its members are different from one another, but they are orchestrated together for a collective undertaking, one that involves itself in making a distinctive contribution. So here are the 3 different kinds. There's the Edah, which is a laser-focused group that's just connected because they're just very, very, very well connected. You have a tzibur, which is just that, we're together right now, so we're a community, and then we're dispersed. And then there's the kehilah, which is this thing where you actually make a contribution. Not literally maybe money, but you contribute something to this group. When you give something to the group, you make it into a kehilah. You make it into this next level of what a community is. And so the beauty of kehilah is that it's driven by this constructive purpose. It gathers together to construct something, just like back to the Torah portion in Vayakel, because the Israelites are building the tabernacle. And so they're doing it because they're collectively giving something to build this thing together. And they can say, ooh, I helped do this. I contributed to this community. The Eidah is this laser focused on one thing. The Tzibur is the larger general. And then there is this idea of a Kehilah where I can say, ooh, I contribute to that. I am part of that group. And so, Dan Nichols, by the way, in his song, did a very good job. Not just in the music and the tune and the catchiness and the way it's spread and the sort of depth of it that connects to kids and camps, but also he talked about, if you know the song very well, and now you will because you're going to listen to it when you go home after Shabbat, you'll see that it starts with each one of us, meaning it's individual, and then the second part of the song and the last part says, it's how we pray, it's how we heal, it's how we live. And so he switches from the singular to the plural, and he actually takes the steps to transition us into what a true Kehilah can be, what a true community can honestly be. And so here is the final thoughts from Rabbi Sachs. He says this. Here is the definition of what a Kehilah is. A Kehilah is to preserve the diversity of the tzibur with the unity of purpose of the Eidah. So if you take the two parts, if you take the tzibur and the Eidah, the public and the hyper-focused, and you put them together, and you make your own contribution to it, yourself, that's the key piece. If you bring yourself to it, it turns into a Kehilah. It turns into a community. It turns into something deeper and more holy. And so I feel this very deep connection here, and I have for many, many years, as all of you feel when you're here in this room, whether it's that moment where we're just connected and we go away, or we're laser focused on something, or when we come together to contribute to something that's bigger than us and greater than us, and that is this place and this community and all of us together. And so as we move into the Shabbat, I would love for us to keep in mind the following things. First, this idea of Vayakel, the idea of we end Exodus so much stronger than we started Exodus as a people. And that's how we have to move in our Jewish lives, to a stronger place constantly. The other is that it's Shabbat HaChodesh. It's the Shabbat that's leading into Pesach. And so it's a very exciting, very awesome, wonderful time for the Jewish people because it celebrates our freedom. And I want us to use that as a metaphor. And this is the last thing I'm going to share with you, is that if you think of Pesach as the metaphor for this growth of what a community is, you can sort of think of each and every one of us celebrates Pesach in our own way. Maybe this is why it's the most popular Jewish holiday of the entire year, because you get to do it your own way. It's in your house. It's how you decide to do it. It's what you want to wear. It's what you want to eat. It's the length you want it to be. No one's there telling you you have to go cover to cover, except for you've come to my house. It's cover to cover. And no one's coming to my house anymore. Like, oh, we're not going there. But then the sense is the Kehilah, the community happens because we're all doing it at the same time. We all sanctify that time together. And so I want us, as we go into the Shabbat, think of both. Think of our individual contributions to how, with that laser-focused Eidah, how that tzibur works, that part of how the public sphere works, but also how the Kehilah works, how all of us make our own contributions to make this a holy place. Shabbat Shalom.